For a moment Whiston remained still. Then he moved aside, signaling to Edwin to step forward. Immediately the silent monk helped Father Jonas to a more upright position. Both monks had become suddenly quite animated. Then, grasping the candle holder from the bedside, tugged Edwin closer, impatiently raising the boy's shirt for Father Jonas to see. Then, for what seemed a long time, both monks went on looking at the boy's wound. Ninian moving the light one way, then the other, as though it were a pool within which a miniature world was contained. Eventually the monks exchanged what seemed to Axel looks of triumph, but the very next moment Father Jonas fell shaking back onto his pillows, with an expression closer to resignation or else sadness. As Ninian hastily put down the candle to attend to him, Edwin slipped back into the shadows to stand beside Whiston. "Father Jonas," Beatrice said, "now you've seen the boy's wound, tell us if it's clean and will heal on its own." Father Jonas's eyes were closed, and he was still breathing heavily, but he said quite calmly, "I believe it will heal if he takes good care. Father Ninian will prepare an ointment for him when he leaves this place." "Father," Beatrice went on, "your present conversation with Master Whiston isn't entirely within my understanding, yet it interests me greatly." "Is that so, mistress?" Father Jonas, still recovering his breath, opened his eyes and looked at her. "Last night in a village below," Beatrice said, "I spoke with a woman wise with medicines. She had much to tell about my sickness, but when I asked her about this mist, the same that makes us forget the last hour as readily as a morning many years past, she confessed she had no idea what or whose work it was. Yet she said if there was one wise enough to know, it would be you, Father Jonas, up here in this monastery. So my husband and I made our way here, even though it's harder road to our son's village, where we're impatiently awaited. It was my hope you'd tell us something of this mist, and how Axel and I might be free of it. It may be I'm a foolish woman, but it seemed to me just now that all the talk of the shepherds, you and Master Wisdom were speaking of this same mist, which much bothered by what's been lost of our past. So let me ask this of you, and Master Wisdom too. Do the both of you know what causes the mist to fall over us?" Father Jonas and Whiston exchanged looks. Then Whiston said quietly, "It's the dragon Carrig, Mistress Beatrice, that roams these peaks. She's the cause of the mist you speak of. Yet these monks here protect her, and have done so for years. I'd wager even now, if they're wise to my identity, they'll have sent for men to destroy me." "Father Jonas, can this be true?" Beatrice asked. "The mist is the work of the she-dragon?" The monk, who for an instant had seemed far away, turned to Beatrice. "The shepherd tells the truth, mistress. It's Carrig's breath which fills this land and robs us of memories." "Axel, do you hear that? The she-dragon's the cause of the mist. If Master Whiston or anyone else, even that old knight met on the road, can slay the creature, our memories will be restored to us. Axel, why so quiet?" Indeed, Axel had been lost in thought, and although he had heard his wife's words and noticed her excitement, it was all he could do simply to reach out a hand to her. Before he could find any words, Father Jonas said to Whiston, "Shepherd, if you know your danger, why do you dally here? Why not take this boy and be on your way? The boy needs rest, as do I." "But you don't rest, shepherd. You cut firewood and wander like a hungry wolf." "When we arrived, your log pile was low, and the nights are cold in these mountains." "There's something else puzzles me, shepherd. Why does Lord Brennus hunt you as he does? For many days now his soldiers have searched the country for you. Even last year, when another man came from the east to hunt Carrig, Brennus believed it might be you and sent men out to search for you. They came up here asking for you. Shepherd, who are you to Brennus?" "We knew each other as young lads, even before the age of this boy here. You've come to this country on an errand, shepherd. Why jeopardize it to settle old scores? I say to you, take this boy and be on your way, even before the monks come out of their meeting. If Lord Brennus does me the courtesy to come here after me this night, I'm obliged then to stand and face him." "Master Whiston," Beatrice said, "I don't know what's between you and Lord Brennus, but if it's your mission to slay the great dragon Carrig, I beg you, don't be distracted from it. There'll be time to settle scores later." "The mistress is right, shepherd. I fear I know, too, the purpose of all this wood-cutting. Listen to what we say, sir. This boy gives you a unique chance, the like of which you may not come your way again. Take him and be on your way." Whiston looked thoughtfully at Father Jonas, then bowed his head politely. I'm happy to have met you, Father, and I apologize if earlier I addressed you discourteously. But now let me and this boy take our leave of you. I know Mistress Beatrice still wishes for advice, and she's a brave and good woman. I beg you preserve some strength to attend to her. Now I'll thank you for your counsel and bid you farewell." Lying in the darkness, still hopeful sleep would overtake him, Axel tried to remember why he had been so oddly silent for much of this time in Father Jonas's cell. There had been some reason, and even when Beatrice, triumphant to discover the origin of the mist, had turned to him and exclaimed, he had been able only to reach out his hand to her, still not speaking. He had been in the throes of some powerful and strange emotion, one that had all but put him in a dream, though every word being spoken about him still reached his ears with perfect clarity. He had felt as one standing in a boat on a wintry river, looking out into the dense fog, knowing it would at any moment part to reveal vivid glimpses of a land ahead. And he had been caught in a kind of terror, yet at the same time had felt a curiosity or something stronger and darker, and he had told himself firmly, "Whatever it may be, let me see it. Let me see it." Had he actually spoken these words out loud? Perhaps he had done so, and just at that instant Beatrice had turned to him in excitement, exclaiming, "Axel, do you hear that? The she-dragon's the cause of the mist." He could not remember clearly what had happened once Wystan and the boy had departed Father Jonas's chamber. The silent monk Ninian must have left with him, probably to provide the ointment for the boy's wound, or simply to lead them back unobserved. In any case, he and Beatrice had been left alone with Father Jonas, and the latter, despite his wounds and his exhaustion, had examined his wife thoroughly. The monk had not asked her to remove any clothing. Axel had been relieved, and though here too his recollection was hazy, an image came to him of Jonas pressing an ear to Beatrice's side, eyes closed in concentration as though some faint message might be heard coming from within. Axel remembered, too, the monk with blinking eyes putting to Beatrice a series of questions. Did she feel sick after drinking water? Did she ever feel pain at the back of her neck? There were other questions Axel could now no longer remember, but Beatrice had replied in the negative to one after the next, and the more she did so, the more pleased Axel had become. Only once, when Jonas asked if she had noticed blood in her urine, and she replied that yes, she sometimes had, did Axel feel unease. But the monk had nodded as though this was normal and to be expected, and gone straight to the next question. How then has this examination ended? He remembered Father Jonas smiling and saying, "So go, you can go see your son, with nothing to fear," and Axel himself saying, "You see, Princess, I always knew it was nothing." Then the monk had eased himself carefully back down on his bed and lain there, recovering his breath. In Ninian's absence, Axel had hurried to fill the monk's drinking cup from the jug, and as he had placed it to the sick man's mouth, had seen tiny droplets of blood slide from the lower lip and spread in the water. Then Father Jonas had looked up at Beatrice and said, "Mistress, you seem happy to know the truth about this thing you call the mist." "Happy indeed, Father, for now there's a way forward for us. Take care, for it's a secret guarded jealously by some, though it's maybe for the best it remains so no longer. It's not for me to care if it's a secret or not, Father, but I'm glad Axel and I know it and can now act on it." "Yet are you so certain, good mistress, you wish to be free of this mist? Is it not better some things remain hidden from our minds?" "It may be so for some, Father, but not for us. Axel and I wish to have again the happy moments we shared together. To be robbed of them is as if a thief came in the night and took what's most precious from us." "Yet the mist covers all memories, the bad as well as the good. Isn't that so, mistress? We'll have the bad news come back too, even if they make us weep or shake with anger, for isn't it the life we've shared?" "You've no fear, then, of bad memories, mistress?" "What's to fear, Father? What Axel and I feel today in our hearts for each other tells us the path taken here can hold no danger for us, no matter what the mist hides it now. It's like a tale with a happy end, when even a child knows not to fear the twists and turns. Before, Axel and I would remember our life together, whatever its shape, for it's been a thing dear to us." A bird must have flown across the ceiling above them. The sound had startled him, and then Axel realized that for a moment or two he had actually been asleep. He realized, too, that there were no more woodcutting noises, and the grounds were silent. Had the warrior returned to their chamber? Axel had heard nothing, and there were no signs beyond the dark shape of the table of anyone else asleep on Edwin's side of the room. What had Father Jonas said after examining Beatrice and concluding with his questions? Yes, she had said she had noticed blood in her urine, but he had smiled and asked something else. You see, Princess, Axel had said, I always told you it was nothing. And Father Jonas had smiled, despite his wounds and his exhaustion, and said, You can go to your son with nothing to fear. But these had never been the questions that Beatrice had feared. Beatrice, he knew, feared the boatman's questions, harder to answer than Father Jonas's, and that was why she had been so pleased to learn the cause of the mist. Axel, do you hear that? She had been triumphant. Axel, do you hear that? She had said, her face radiant.